We are live. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I am your host, Blake Ruffino. This is Are You Serious Sports. We hope that you guys are making it a good one. We know that we are as well. Normally, live on a Sunday, live on the Lord's Day. Father Abraham was one of us. But live on a Sunday, we got a lot to talk about. An emergency episode? Not really. Last time I said that, everybody freaked out. The LSU, some guys in the LSU media said, "Oh, Blake, you don't know what you're doing." And then what I said happened was going to happen. Nevertheless, not an emergency episode, but maybe a little. Maybe just a little bit. If you missed it, a lot of talk around Arizona State transfer quarterback Jayden Daniels, something that we've been talking about for over 2 weeks with Jaden Daniels. Looks like he could be trending to LSU. Steve Wiltfong, made a pick that he was going to come to LSU, something that we had talked about just this past week when we were doing remote from Fort Walton Beach. We're going to talk a lot about Jaden Daniels. I'm going to give you my opinion on Jaden Daniels again, just to refresh, doing some more film study on Jaden Daniels, what do I think he does if and when he comes to LSU, if or when. Let me say if or when, not if and when. If or when he comes. What the LSU Tigers should expect. It should also tell you what Brian Kelly's thinking. We've talked about this for over 7 weeks now, and we'll recap that. We'll also recap Junior Day, a lot of good things that we're hearing around Junior Day, how Brian Kelly, and we'll use a more holistic approach, not maybe just individual guys. So we'll go more at it holistically, not just, hey, I talked to this guy, and this guy. I think that gets a little nauseous, at least for me. So we will talk about that. Carter the Power Bryant joins us in 25 minutes. I'm going to ask him a lot of football stuff. We'll kick around some LSU stuff as well. What does he think about the potential of Jaden Daniels coming to LSU? Interesting. LSU baseball to finish strong. Let's see if they finish strong today against Baylor. I think that they will. I think Baylor's not as good as maybe some believe that they would be. And they fall to Texas last night. Had a lot of opportunities to win that game, but they fall short. You hanging around with the number one team of the country. Texas is really good in baseball, y'all. It's just the bottom line. And LSU basketball is sitting really, really well in the SEC tournament. We'll touch on that, and I will do a Ruffino's rants at the end of the show. Zion Williamson is getting under my skin a little bit. Seems like every time something's going good, Zion Williamson returns. It's like when you say the word goosebumps 3 times, or not goosebumps, Beetlejuice 3 times, he shall appear. So we'll talk. I'm going to go off on Zion. I don't like the affinity from what some people have. Let's call it what it is. Take off your blinders for a minute and realize what's going on. We'll touch on Zion at the end of the show. So before we get started, let's get to a couple of these comments. We talked about this yesterday, but Jerry Zimmerman said the Frank Wilson accusations seem a little bit fishy. Yeah, we'll see. They do. And I've talked to some people, and they say, she might have this, she might have that. Well, LSU also has this, and they also have that. For whatever it's worth, I feel like this is going to end out in a settlement. But we'll see. Ryan Thibodeau says, it's time for the hashtag AYS Church with your own pastor, Blake Ruffino. Well, I'm not a pastor. No. I'm not a pastor. Tommy Poole says, hey, Blake, any news how Junior Day went? We will get on that. A lot of people saying, let's go. Jerry also saying that as well. KMC say Jaden Daniels, crystal ball to LSU. Looks that way. Something that we've been talking about for 2 weeks. We talked about it Monday night. I don't know why it's just being brought back up now. But nevertheless, I guess we'll talk on it again. We'll talk on it again. It's some bigger news, and we'll talk some LSU football on that. We'll talk some football on that. Jordan Davis, Jamar Jackson said Jordan Davis ran a 4.8. I saw that. 4.78, actually. Big defensive lineman from Georgia. Absolutely just nuts. Wild, man. You should not be that big and that fast. 4.78. Ty Davis Price running a 4.48 is massive. I mean, guys, and I might go off on a little Ruffino's rants too on early to start off. We'll see. It's been one of those kinds of days, I guess. All right, let's get started and let's get rolling. We'll get to a lot of your comments. Fire them inside the chat, Rudy Crew chat. Fire them in there. We'll get to as many of them as we can. Before we get started, guys, do us a favor by hitting the like and share. Share to your social media groups. Share to your Facebook groups. We would greatly, greatly appreciate that. There's a lot of you watching us right now on Facebook. Do us a favor by hitting that like button, hitting that share. Get us to the, even if you're on YouTube, get us to the 100 like mark. Everybody hit that like button. We're 30 on YouTube, so subscribe and hit that notification bell there as well. We would greatly appreciate it. If you're listening to this on the audio podcast platform, we greatly appreciate that as well. We're going to be doing our now studio is going to be changing a little bit here soon, getting a lot more new gear, getting ready to move into the new one. Still got a lot of stuff we got to get done, but really looking forward to that too. So it's going to be a lot better for the audio podcast platform size. Audio is going to get a lot better. So, all right, let's pay some bills around this thing, and then we'll get started. None better than our good friends over at GM Varno & Sons and betonline.ag. Guys, with over 65 long years of experience, nobody is better equipped to service in your vehicle than GM Varno & Sons. RV repair, big rig overhauls, motorhome chassis, routine maintenance, tire rotations, tire sales. No job is too big or too small over at GM. Give them a call today at 225-664-9992. That's 225-664-9992. And tell them your good friend Mr. Blake Ruffino over at AYS sent you on by. And our good friends over at betonline.ag. Guys, have been telling you about BetOnline for such a long time now. You have the SEC tournament coming up. Had a big UFC 272 event last night you could have bet on. So many different things you can place bets on. The best place that I go for them is betonline.ag. If you haven't signed up today, use your mobile device. Use the Believe promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV, and they'll give you 50% off your first welcome deposit. Again, that's betonline.ag. Betonline.ag. All right, let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Let's get this thing rolling, y'all. Rob Boudreaux says betonline.ag. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Ryan Thibodeau says, I've been busy DJing Mardi Gras parties last couple of weeks, last couple of nights. Court, I see you, Ryan. Go, DJ. That's my DJ. All right. Kenny Futch says, I met Quincy Wiggins yesterday, and he looks cut. Yeah, he looks really good, man. He looks like he's putting on some really good weight, and we could see him this fall. Kenny Russell says, Blake, I heard Kelly and Sloan are telling recruits we are running a vertical passing game with RPOs and zone run principles that will sell better to the 2019 offense. So let's start there. And Kenny, it's a really good thing you just said, and I'm hearing a lot of the same things. Let's talk about this, though, because it's the reason why, if you're on Facebook, there's a lot of you in there. All of y'all hit that like button. Come on, man. So let's start here. Look, Monday or Tuesday, we had talked about Jaden Daniels. Like, there have been some things that have been going on, and I'm going to even go 8 weeks or 7 weeks before that. There was a lot of things that I'd heard and some opinions that I'd formed around some of the things that I'd heard in reference to LSU when it comes to quarterback position. And I know a lot of LSU fans, and this is going to rub a lot of LSU fans the wrong way, and I don't mean it to. Like, if you disagree with this opinion, that is my opinion on Jaden Daniels or the quarterback position. That's fine. But I also think that there's some now that we're looking into it, and something that we talked about for over 2 months, some realistic things going on with LSU in the quarterback position. Let's start off here. For a while now, I have been told that LSU was looking inside the portal and was going to kick the tires on a lot of quarterbacks that are in the transfer portal, whether they go into the transfer portal, and even if Jaden Daniels comes to LSU. Now, there's a lot of people talking about that LSU is one of the 3 schools that Jaden Daniels is looking at, one of them being Oregon. I don't believe that he's going to Oregon now with Bo Nix being at Oregon. Missouri being one of those schools, I think that you can easily beat Missouri in this recruiting process because you point at Kayshon Boutte and you say, hello. Oh, by the way, his backup's Chris Hilton. You know, that very, very talented kid from Zachary High School, right? Like, that might be his backup. Oh, on the other side, we have a guy by the name of Jack Besh. Oh. And by the way, we got another guy named Brian Thomas. And we just got you a freshman All-American left tackle. Why wouldn't you want to come to LSU? So if it is that these three schools that comes down for Jayden Daniels is those three, I think LSU is in the captain's chair. We will continue to talk about Jayden Daniels. We will even talk a little bit more in depth about that with Carter Bryant when he comes, Carter the Power from Power Hour, LSU Power Hour, when he comes on here. But I want to say this. It should view your new head coach, and now that you have a lot of new eyeballs on this team, Mike Denbrock, Joe Sloan, Brian Kelly, whoever it may be that's looking at the quarterback position, it should tell you about what they think right now. I believe, and I have heard that they obviously know that Walker Howard is the obvious predecessor. He is going to eventually and one day be the guy. But right now, what is LSU's goals? What are the things that they are trying to meet? The way that I have taken all of this quarterback news and Brian Kelly wanting to at least kick the tires on other quarterbacks is this. Guys, I think he feels like he's maybe a quarterback away from having an 8, 9, 10-win season. It also tells me that he's not wanting to come in here and have a rebuilding type of year. He's wanting to win right now. With all due respect, guys, Brian Kelly's not a spring chicken, and he knows that. That's not a slight at him. Not even close. He's an older coach that wants to come in here and win national titles. Brian Kelly has said it multiple times. The only reason why he's here, number one, is to develop young men. And I fully believe him when he says that. Number two is he wants to win natties. He wants to win national titles. He wants to coach the best. He wants to be around the best. And you're going to have to go get the best because you can go get the best. I see a lot of Notre Dame fans and media. Oh, Brian Kelly said we didn't have explosiveness and you can't recruit here. Newsflash, guys, you can't. You can in the top 10, top 12. Sounds good. But your best running back is running a 4.78. Jordan Davis, the defensive lineman for Georgia, is also running a 4.78 40. On my opinion, so Brian Kelly is going to have his pick of the litter, so to speak, or his pick of whatever guy he wants to go after in the state of Louisiana, and he's probably got a step above more than anybody else in the entire country. You know, I hear a lot of times that Keyshawn Bouttes don't fall off on trees, but then I look at Odell Beckham, I look at Jarvis Landry, I look at Jamar Chase, I look at Justin Jefferson, I look at Terrace Marshall. Then I look at Keyshawn Boutte. I look at Chris Hilton. I look at Brian Thomas Jr. The hell they don't. I think, I feel, and this part is opinion, with some things that I'm hearing and formulating this opinion, they think that they're a quarterback away. Now, what does that mean for the rest of the guys that's on the team? And we have to really talk about that. Like, legitimately talk about that. It is look, I have been labeled, and we've talked about this ad nauseum, but I have been labeled something specific when I talk about Miles Brennan. Guys, I don't know if Miles Brennan's ready to go. I don't know if Garrett Nussmeier's ready to go. I don't know, and I kind of feel like they know that Walker Howard's not necessarily ready to go. I don't know if Jayden Daniels is ready to go. But Jayden Daniels does have more on-field experience than Miles Brennan, and it's not close. The last time Jayden Daniels was around NFL type of talent like Keyshawn Boutte, and maybe even not on Keyshawn Boutte's level, but guys like Brandon Ayuk, who's killing it with the San Francisco 49ers, he absolutely dominated. He dominated. Well, Blake, he regressed. Well, so did Arizona State and the kids around him because they have so many kids going to the transfer portal because Herm Edwards broke some very serious rules, and former LSU center Kevin Mawai is out there ratting on them. You want the truth? There's the truth. If you want the Tom Cruise truth, tell me the truth. That's the truth. I think it's a good battle between Jaden Daniels and Miles Brennan and Garrett Nussmeier. I think it's a really good battle. I don't think all three of those stay if Jaden Daniels comes here. I think Nussmeier leaves. I think Brennan maybe leaves. One of the two is going to leave. But if you ask me my God's honest opinion about on the field, I don't know if I don't lead Jaden Daniels out to start. I don't know that. Now, he's going to have to come in here and put in some good work. It's not going to be handed to him. Miles is going to give him competition. Garrett Nussmeier's a competitor. He'll go out there and compete with him. Nobody is saying that. No one. But when, and as Kenny just mentioned, when you want to run the RPOs and you want to run a vertical pass game, which, by the way, Jaden Daniels is a really good thrower of the football. A very, very good runner of the football. He fits a system that LSU now wants to run more than else. Here's what else it confirms. It kind of confirms a little bit more of what LSU's thinking about what they want to do offensively. Well, Blake, they haven't gone after a tight end in the portal. They haven't made it, even though it might be the biggest need or the thing that LSU needs offensively, they haven't really targeted one heavily. That's interesting. Maybe they want to spread the ball out and run RPOs. Your offensive coordinator is the tight ends coach. Brian Kelly will be with the quarterbacks with Joe Sloan. And what's even crazy is Joe Sloan said a couple of weeks ago that Brian Kelly, as a head coach, might be the best communicator he's ever had as a head coach. Oh, my voice cracking up. So you have really two good coaches that can coach quarterbacks. It's just of my opinion that it's just of my opinion. That Jaden Daniels would be very good here. He would do very good here. And I know that there's a lot of people that have an affinity for Miles Brennan, and I understand that. He's in a battle right now. He's been in a battle. He's going to mentally have to get himself right. I don't know if I have to be the one to tell him that. He's got to get ready to go. So does Garrett Nussmeier. So does everybody on this team. They're not going to wait around for everybody like Orgeron did. They're not going to do it. I have my concerns about Jaden Daniels. Now there are some things about Jaden Daniels. Can he take a hit in the SEC when Will Anderson comes off that edge? Can he take that hit? One thing I know, though, in watching film on him, he's really good at getting out of the pocket. He's really good at stepping up in the pocket. He's really good at tucking the ball and running and not taking a hit. You know who he reminds me a lot of is maybe a slimmer version of the Ritter kid from Cincinnati who was on Mike Denbrock's team last year. Like they remind me a lot of one another. Maybe a little bit more polished as a passer than Desmond Ritter was. Actually, he is more of a polished passer, in my opinion. Guys, there were times where he's in a game and he has zero help. Go watch the film. I do see a lot of people talking negatively about Jaden Daniels. I know his teammates did a lot of, did the thing that he did when he went to portal to his locker. Yeah, well, there's a toxicity around Arizona State, too. I would not mind a battle. I would not mind a quarterback battle going. But if and when, and now there's more than just me saying this. It's not just me coming out and talking about Jaden Daniels. It's not more than me just coming out and talking about LSU at the quarterback position. Guys, you're starting to get other people using their sourcing to say that they believe Jaden Daniels could be coming to LSU. So now what do you believe? Guys, if I had some glasses, I would put them on and then take them off. We got to take the blinders off, guys. Now, if you want me to give you an idea, and then we'll get to some of these comments, and then we'll get to some LSU baseball, basketball, and stuff like that too. If you want me to tell you what I'm feeling, like what is my thoughts around Jaden Daniels in reference to the possibility of him coming here, guys, I hope that this confirms, and to our loyal listeners, I'm not just pulling shit out of my ass. I'm not just saying, hey, here's this one transfer quarterback. Here comes LSU. Because why wouldn't have I done the same thing for JT Daniels? We're not just pulling it out. I do have I do feel confident that LSU, if they want to pull the full court press on Jaden Daniels, they can go and get him. It's opinion. I would do it. I don't have a lot of faith at that position right now. It's the biggest position in all of sports. I'd go do it. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Ryan Thibodeau says we really need a tight end. Yeah, I agree. Philip Rose says, hey, Blake, any updates on Junior Day? Yeah, I'm glad that you asked that, Philip. I think that two things can be true at the same time. And a lot of things, and it's, it's the old saying, two things of being true at the same time. The things that I've heard from coaches and recruits, guys, Brian Kelly can freaking recruit. If you get him in front of a kid and you get him in front of a recruit, he's pretty deadly. Now, will he go out there and be as gung-ho as Orgeron was? Maybe not. Maybe not. But Orgeron at times is like the guy, the middle school kid who got broken up by his girlfriend and is always thinking about her and can't stop looking at his phone and wanting to know if he should call her and can't stop talking about her and thinking about her. That was O. I don't think Brian Kelly's going to do that. Maybe he does, maybe he doesn't. I just don't see him doing that. He's a good closer. You know what else he's done? He's put a lot of good coaches around him who can recruit. They're going to build this offensive line really good. LSU's not done on the offensive line. I'm going to keep this one close to the chest. LSU might not even be done at the offensive line for this season. Something that we've also talked about. Brian Kelly's going to make a statement up front. Look, if there's one thing that you can't say about Notre Dame under Brian Kelly's tenure, they were really good up front. Extremely good up front. Quentin Nelson, I don't have to make another argument. I really don't. What happens when you get high-level recruits at the offensive line with guys like Kayshon Boutte? Then what? It can feel as if it's a perfect storm for Brian Kelly. Guys, you can have that scenario. We could have that scenario. I like what they want to do with Jaden Daniels, get him outside the pocket. Stop letting your quarterback who is a mobile quarterback. Guys, we let Max Johnson, who likes to use his legs and get out of the pocket and run, we let him sit in the pocket last year. Brian Kelly's not going to come into a game scared. And for whatever it's worth, good on him. But the reason he did a lot of things at Notre Dame is simply because he could not, with the academic limitations, not limitations, but the academic standards, he could not get some of the kids that maybe an LSU can get. Kyle Decker says, don't forget about Jeray Jenkins. That's another one, man. That's another one. Jeray's good too, man. I mean, they have weapons all across the place. Darren says, hashtag early Rudy Poo of the week, Zion, and bye-bye Coach K. Screw Duke. That's funny. Jerry says, bring Daniels on. We'll have the whole SEC guessing and worried about who we starting. I don't think they'll be worried because it's only one team that will be worried, and that's Florida State. Rob Boudreaux says, I can eat chicken every day. I ate more chicken wings today at lunch. I can't stop, y'all. Can't stop, won't stop. Kenny Russell says, I think Daniels is a better Kellermond. Kenny. Kenny, with all due respect to Kellen Mond, he is a light years ahead of Kellen Mond when it comes to throwing the football. Guys, I'm telling you, the kid can play. Don't sit in here and give me his stats. Go watch the film, because if you're going to just show me the stats and you're not going to go watch the film, then don't talk to me. Because if I'm putting in the work, you're going to have to put in the work too. The kid can play. A lot of things around him broke down. Offensive line broke down. Receivers broke down. Running backs can't catch the ball. Running backs fumbling. A lot of bad things happened around him at Arizona State. A lot of bad things. Now, another thing the one thing that I would say I didn't really like a lot is he will force the ball in coverage. He will force it. Kick and play, man. We will get to some LSU baseball and basketball here too, but we got like 22 seconds, and then we got to get to Carter the Power Bryant. Actually, 15 seconds. Last comment that we're getting there, our good friend Carter the Power Bryant. And says, I'm excited for this. Miles is too fragile. We need options. Bailey, I'm excited about that Texas A&M game next year. I am too. Look, we'll continue this conversation, and we'll continue it now. Let's do this. Let's get to a very, very quick break, and we're going to bring on Carter the Power Bryant. And then we'll talk LSU basketball and baseball, and then we'll talk about how I'm going to tee off on Zion. Eaton, as Pooh Bear in here said, he's at a where is Pooh's comment? Pooh Bear said he's at a funeral chicken convention. That's also where Zion's been for the last 4 months, eating fried chicken every day. So let's get to a quick break. We'll get to Carter the Power Bryant. None better than our good friends over at NordVPN and Carol Foss over at State Farm. Guys, I got to tell you, since I've switched over to NordVPN, my peace of mind about my security, about my stream, and about everything we do online has given me a huge boost of confidence. NordVPN has the next best encryption for all your security and safety purposes. If you're on a desktop, laptop, whatever you need to do, they will be able to protect everything that you have on your laptop. With everything going on today, they are the number one stop when it comes to VPN service. That's NordVPN. Use the promo code BLEAV, believe, BLEAV. You'll get 70% off and your first month free with NordVPN. And tell them your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by, and our good friend Carol Foss over at State Farm for all the great rates at State Farm, home, life, auto. They do it all. Give him a call today at 985-395-4300, 985-395-4300. Tell him your good friend Blake Ruffino at AYS sent you on by. Dun-na, dun-na. Go, Carter.
What's going on, Blake? A Sunday afternoon, man. This is normally the time like I get up. I mean, my goodness gracious, man. Good to see all these beautiful people with some really fun Jaden Daniels discourse. I love it, man.
Okay, well, first off, I'm looking at you right now, and it's like new camera who this. It looks great. Picture looks great. But, yeah, Carter, we're talking about Jaden Daniels. I wanted to bring you on. Carter, what is this? Now that we're getting some sourcing and some really reliable people talking about Jaden Daniels possibly coming to LSU, I just said what it tells me. But, Carter, what does it tell you?
So the first thing, look, let's bring this into the discussion, right? So you bring in Mike Denbrock, right? Who was his quarterback last year? It was Desmond Ridder.
Right.
And I don't know, Blake, if you guys have touched on this yet, but a big part of what Cincinnati did last year was the RPO game. And a lot of it was Desmond Ridder pulling the football and running with it. So, as far as Mike Denbrock is concerned, I do think he would feel a little bit more comfortable as a play caller with having someone who can run his offense, right? And at least if you bring Jaden Daniels in, he gives you that aspect to his game. Now, I understand, we look at Garrett Nussmeier as a mobile dual threat quarterback, but he's not really a runner, right? Athletically, he's not going to kill you with his legs the same way a guy like Jaden Daniels would. Now, once again, we're not saying Jaden Daniels is the next Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson or Tim Tebow. No one is saying that at all. And someone makes a good point about the turnovers and forcing the football into very dangerous situations. I will include, though, that Arizona State as a program was a lot like LSU with a lot of mess going on off the field. And what can happen sometimes, especially if you just start right off the bat, which Jaden Daniels did, some natural regression will just step in, right? As Jaden Daniels was moving along in his career, his coaching actually got worse. So there's that aspect of his game as well. So, once again, no one is saying Jaden Daniels is 10 times better than Miles Brennan, and no one is saying Jaden Daniels is the quarterback of the future compared to Walker Howard or Garrett Nussmeier. The point, though, is if he really wants to come, it gives you such amazing insurance at by far the most vital position in the sport.
I agree with everything, Carter, that you just said. Does it tell you anything about what Brian Kelly's thinking? Meaning, is there anything that he looks at this quarterback room and says, hey, guys, look, y'all are good, but you're going to have – I don't know how, Carter, to say it in today's society where if I say something, it's going to be taken out of context. But it feels like that there's a little bit to me that Brian Kelly sits back and watched last year's film and says, hey, man, we're just not ready. And, Carter, he even said that, right? He said it in the press conference that, guys, if we play the game today, we're just not ready to go. Do you think that that's a little bit telling about what he's thinking about the quarterback room?
I think it is, and here's something else that's just really hard to think about as a quarterback, right? It's hard as what to finish a year, right? To start game one and finish that bad boy, especially when you're not winning, right? Mm-hmm. So Jaden Daniels is battle-tested. You go look at his numbers, right? He performed far worse on the road than he did at home.
That's right.
Right? Now, I will include his best road performance this past year was against Utah, the best team in the Pac-12. So, he had some flashes of excellence. Also, look, his weapons, yes, there was a Brandon Ayuk year mixed in there, and Ayuk is just an amazing wide receiver for the college football level. But really, it's not Jack Besh, it's not Kayshawn, it's not those guys, right? That's that's a clear drop off from the skill guys. Now, I will say Arizona State's running back room has always been really, really good, but the receivers is, the number one thing that affects the quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. And this is the last, but certainly not least thing, right? And Blake, you played the offensive line, you know this pretty well. An offensive line that's going to be it's going to be patchwork, right? We're going to have basically a brand new group of guys out there next year. A mobile quarterback helps out with that, right? It just does. There's no other way around it. Not just protection breaking down. It's zone read, it's RPO. Those plays really help out the offensive line, and it makes that defensive line guess a lot more with what you're going to do, right? So there's going to be some games where LSU's offensive line, which is so new, is not going to play that well, and Jaden Daniels would be able to escape and make a few plays if he ends up actually being the guy. Now, this is also very important to include in the story right now as well, is that basically Steve Wilfong, who is a national college football reporter, is the one who really set this small-ish firestorm out about Jaden Daniels because he put in a crystal ball. So we don't know really anything about visits, unless you know something, Blake, that I don't know. We still got to wait and see this thing play out. And Jaden Daniels probably wants to go somewhere where he is going to play, right? So we'll see what happens.
Carter, a little bit too about your Mike Denbrock RPO game. There was a game against Notre Dame, against Brian Kelly, and also against Alabama and Nick Saban, where this is where Jaden Daniels makes the most sense for me. is they run a zone read concept with the offensive line. They read the defensive end. They read Will Anderson. The one bad play of that entire game, Carter, of the absolute dominance that Will Anderson had, because we and you talked about this.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, just like killed it.
Right.
But they did do some good things against him, and I'll mention it here, is they ran an RPO with the offensive line, faked it with the back, but they have as what most people will know it as, is Spider 2 wide banana. Fullback in the flat. They have a tight end going into the corner going into the corner. Carter, that is with a quarterback that knows how to run that system and that is athletic enough to run that system. It is not just dangerous. It could be elite. And
right.
And that's where I sit back and I wonder, like, you're going to have to be able to move and throw the football in this offense. Now, with that being said alone, that also is where Walker Howard fits best. Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And so I even sit back and say to myself, I don't know, Carter, if there's not a scenario where he's not the number 2 guy if Jayden Daniels comes.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens there, but I just think it's really interesting. There's a lot you can run off of it. Look, if he does come, I'm tiptoeing around where I shouldn't be tiptoeing around. But if he does come, what would your initial thoughts be? Let me ask it like that.
Yeah. So this is obviously a very prevalent question from Charlie Viator. I don't know how to say his last name. How many years does Daniels have left?
2.
So he has 3 years.
Would it be 3?
Yeah, so he has 3 years of starters experience, but he still has 3 years of eligibility left because of the 2020 COVID year. So he started as a true freshman in 2019. 2020, he was also the starter.
So then he'd be a redshirt freshman last year, and then now he'd be a redshirt sophomore, right?
Yeah, so
God,
he would have 3 years of eligibility left, and we're talking about a top 50 recruit. And look, I understand that you can win a lot of games with the pocket quarterback. You really can, right? Miles Brennan can get you 9 or 10 wins. But I do want to include this, right? Let's take Georgia, for instance, right? The biggest difference between Stetson Bennett and JT Daniels was Bennett can run, right? He can run. And that was, one of the big deciding factors for Georgia's season, right? Mm-hmm. Now, let's talk about this guy really quickly. I'm not gonna spend too much time on it. This guy in the background right there. Let's talk about Joe really quickly. All right.
Oh, well, see, I saw the Jeremy Hill jersey. He's coming on tomorrow night. So thank you for clarifying. But continue.
Now, so Joe Burrow, his running ability is what won us a lot of games, right? So you take the Clemson game, you take the Alabama game, you take all those games, right? The difference was Joe Burrow's running ability. That really was the difference in LSU winning those games, Auburn as well, right? It really changes so much that you're able to do offensively. So, that alone compared to Miles Brennan's athleticism is something that's worth mentioning. And that to me would be, the biggest difference between the both of them is that Jaden Daniels, if you're grading it on a scale of 1 to 10, as far as being a runner, he's probably about like a 7. Like he's not Manzielian. He's not definitely Cam, but he put up, I think there was more games last year where he had a run of 20 yards or more than not. Right. So, that's obviously a huge difference maker as far as him is concerned. So, yeah, I'm a big believer in Jaden Daniels, and I'm kind of talking myself into it. And I know a lot of people see the 10 interceptions. Well, Brian Kelly is good at coaching risk-averse football as well. So keep all that in mind when it comes to his evaluation.
We do have some questions pulling in here, Carter. One from being Bailey, and I think she may be he may be talking about from last year, but hashtag Ask Carter, what do you think is going to be the best or the most interesting or best game played by LSU next year? Well, maybe next year. I don't. Maybe the first one. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly.
But you agree with that, Carter?
Yeah, Florida State obviously is the most fascinating. If you're a college football historian, a lot of us have never seen that iconic Seminole Yeah, I had the Golden Domes right there, right? And considering they won their national championship in New Orleans, that's a very big deal for a lot of Florida State fans to go see that game. To me, though, Blake, obviously it's always going to be Alabama, right? Where you have that bye week, but the game that's always given LSU trouble, at least in recent years, is that week 7 and week 8 game, right? Where you play back-to-back Power 5 opponents. You go back to 2019, the Auburn performance was in that week 8 slot. That was LSU's worst offensive performance the entire year. And then 2020, we saw what happened in that week 8 period, right? And then 2021 in particular is where things got really rough for LSU this past year with that Ole Miss game in week 8. So once again, just like last year, you're going to have that week 7, week 8 where you play Florida and Ole Miss back to back. It's going to be brutal. A Lane Kiffin coach team is tough to go up against with tired legs.
And look, Carter, he's got weapons now too.
Right.
It's not that he didn't have weapons last year or the year before, but 2 words, Zach Evans.
Right.
He's got weapons now. Like, this isn't a joke anymore with Lane Kiffin. And look, I think that's if you're Brian Kelly, you also have to sit back, Carter, and say to yourself, like, look, man, we could get away in the Big Ten with playing some rough and tough, and we're going up against Wisconsin. We could sit there and line it up and run the football. He can't do that here, Carter. Not anymore.
Right.
And so it just makes it more interesting. I missed a comment, Carter, and I can't find it. People were asking you about tight end. Let me put my own spin on that. Does it tell you a little bit more about what LSU wants to do from offensive philosophy standpoint about not going after a tight end so much than it does? You have some talent there, but you just don't have a lot of depth.
Yeah, you don't. Just based on, 2 years of what we've seen from Cole Taylor, you have major questions about him going in to next year when it comes to just, the base athleticism you need to play a really difficult position, right? So, obviously we'll see what happens with Jack Mashburn. We'll see what happens with what they view Jack Besh exactly as. Now, I will say this about Jack Besh. His blocking was a lot better than what would think. Now, it wasn't, it wasn't George Kittle, but it was still, it was still pretty amazing for a guy who's never blocked before. He actually blocked fine. So we'll see. I think just because of depth, they'll still use him as that hybrid tight end, and you'll see, even though it would be 11 personnel, you'll see what essentially is going to be 10 personnel, where Besh is a tight end, and you have 3 of the talented wide receivers out there, who Kayshawn and whoever the other 2 guys would be.
This is some amazing stuff by you. I just gotta let you know, Carter.
That's not amazing. It's not amazing, man. We're just having fun, baby. It's Sunday afternoon, man. I'm normally sipping on Capri Suns and Shirley Temples and eating a few Oreos, man. You got one of the fastest growing platforms. You're killing it. You got Mike Jones, got Jake Hill. Who you got, man? You're just destroying it, man. I love coming on this show. It's one of my favorite shows out there, man. And I will add to this about, the tight end position. It historically has not been one of LSU's stronger positions anyway. Right. And to add on to that, there's just not that many great tight ends. There's not. It's kind of a weird thing, right? Where only one is on the field more often than not. There's just not many of them. It's a weird body type. It's a weird skill set to have to play that position. So I understand a lot of people are panicking about that tight end spot, but not everybody can have Brock Bowers. Not everybody can have Michael Mayer. So you just got to trust Brian Kelly, who's had more great tight ends than essentially anyone, and hope for the best.
I think Bruce Steele makes an interesting point here. So let me bring this up. He says LSU is waiting for Darnell Washington and Hankton connection.
Love it.
Carter, let me tell you something. And I'm an emotional dude. You know that. I know that. And I don't make any bones about it. But let me just say this. If they do get Darnell Washington and they do get Jaden Daniels, okay, Carter, out and look, I know the talk will be about the offensive line again. I have my reserves on the offensive line on this, but All-American left tackle. You have some pieces and experience up front. What do you do at center? That's fine. We'll see when we get there. Carter, they're a 9-10 win team, buddy. I really do believe that. If they put those pieces together, I see them being there. I also see that, look, this defense also has pieces. Carter, I'm not trying to talk myself into them playing for an SEC title. I'm not going to do that. But there's something I was going to talk about a little bit later, and I'll even mention it now. I mean, when you look at the NFL Combine and the NFL Draft, and you see the guys that are going to get drafted from last year's team, you would say to yourself, okay, well, that's at minimum an 8-win team. Like at minimum an 8-win team. Carter, what do you do now? What do you do now with a really good coaching staff? Now, let me ask you this. Am I somewhat talking myself into something here, or does that have legs?
No. It definitely has legs, man. Come on, man. I mean, we're LSU fans at heart, right? We want to be eternal optimists, right? Mm-hmm. Here's what I'll say. That first game against Florida State is so huge just because of what we've seen the last couple of years as far as how important that first game was. I would say the UCLA game was far more devastating than the Mississippi State game simply because of, last year we just all viewed it as kind of a fluke. Well, me and you were warning everyone going into 2021. Maybe it wasn't, a couple of things that were lingering from that Orgeron team, and we continue to do the same thing in 2021. That first game is just going to be so massive, right? That's a critical game for more so Florida State than even LSU, right? Because
I agree with that too.
Florida State, as chaotic and as nefarious as some of the stuff off the field with LSU has become, at least most LSU fans view Brian Kelly as the best coach right now for LSU. That is not the case for Florida State, right? There are a lot of people that want Deion to have that job right the F now. And, it's a weird thing. That first game is going to be a very strange one because there is so much uncertainty about both of those teams, going into next year. Now, as far as a 9-win team is concerned, yeah, it's doable. That's doable. You're going to need some luck. You're going to need the ball to bounce your way some. But I look, the SEC is going to be really deep next year, right? Arkansas, to me, has a sleeping giant at quarterback in KJ Jefferson. I know they lost Traylon Burks, but KJ was really good. He had 6 games, 70-plus QBR, which is really tough to do. And, Ole Miss is Ole Miss with Lane. And Mississippi State, they bring back Rodgers, and they have a bunch of really skilled guys. I'm really high on Xavier Thomas, the kid, the 3-star wide receiver they got out of Louisiana. So, it's going to be a brutal SEC, but if the ball bounces your way, you can get the 9 wins easily.
I agree. I just wanted to make sure, Carter, I wasn't talking myself.
No, heavens no. If you have Kayshawn on your roster, that's good enough for 1 or 2 wins, right? So, I mean, look, he single-handedly won LSU the Mississippi State game. So, if he's fully healthy and locked in and ready to go, that guy will win you 2 games on his own. You just got to kind of have to figure out how to win 7 more so you can get that magical 9-win number.
See, and here I thought it was just Ed Orgeron cutting up the X's and O's to win Mississippi State. Never mind. Limitless. All right, our last one. Jared Hill says, talk about the Zion situation. Is there anything that you think about the Zion situation before we get you out of here? Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I think Zion's fine. Once again, he's a young guy that is going through a lot. Now, his communication with the organization has been very immature, and he could be immature at times, right? You'll see him on the sideline, kind of out of it, right? And he's been training away from the team, and then the CJ McCollum situation, and the JJ Redick situation, and so on and so on. Look, the Pelicans are where they are now because of resilience, because New Orleans is a mother effing basketball city. I'm getting sick and tired. And look, so many people always say this, right? Well, the national media is out to get us. This is one of the few times where you can actually say that as a Pelicans fan, right? The national media, there have been at least 5. I can name 5 specific examples just right off the top of my head of the national media just crapping on the Pelicans when there's no base, in fact, about it at all, as far as the fan base, as far as Gail Benson wanted to be in the city. And look, it's not cool. It's really not cool, right? Especially if you are a big Pelicans basketball fan. So, yeah, obviously Zion needs to handle all of this right. But if you come back and the team is winning and you got an experienced, bona fide leader in CJ McCollum, who has been way better than I thought he was going to be, the Pels are going to be fine. Now, here's the thing, okay? And this happens all the time in society, Blake. We always like to look to our right and say, well, what could have been? What could have been if we would have drafted Ja Morant instead of Zion?
Oh, God.
Stop. Just stop it. I'm tired of people doing this, right? Stop it.
He's just so good.
Is Ja Morant a better player? Yeah, right now he clearly is. He's probably him or Embiid the MVP right now. I'd probably give it to Ja Morant. So what? You can't live your life like that. You just can't, right? Like if I'm a Trailblazer fan, I don't go to sleep every night and say, Sam Bowie, I hate you so much, Sam. Don't do that, because I've seen some of that, right, Blake? Where people are like, oh my goodness, we should have drafted the guy from Murray State. No. Zion was the biggest star on the planet. Barack Obama was at his game, just a regular game, the shoe explosion game. I mean, it was what you were supposed to do in that situation, right? No one expected Ja Morant to be like getting on the Damian Lillard, Steph Curry level of dominance that he's been on, right? So don't do that. If you're a Pelican fan, don't do that. Just let Ja be Ja. He's awesome. And just cross your fingers. Zion comes back motivated and ready to go.
We're going to table this conversation for a later time, but I'm a little ticked off with Zion, if I'm being a little honest.
You should be.
But,
just a little bit.
Well, I mean, look, like, I just don't like the whole fact, Carter, like, so now we're on a 4-game winning streak and now you're back in the city. Like that's the only thing for me. Is like, wait a minute, man. When they lost 7 in a row, where were you at? You were in Portland. You weren't talking to David Griffin. That's the only thing that bothers me. Really.
Right.
That's the only thing that bothers me. But nevertheless, you are Carter the Power Bryant. Let's go. Thank you, my friend. Hopefully we will have you on again very soon, because maybe we have a new quarterback. Oopsies. We'll see you, buddy.
See you, bud.
That is Carter the Power Bryant joining us. Always a fantastic guest for us. Very quickly, and we're going to get to LSU basketball and baseball. Let me just say my piece on Zion very quickly, because we ended it there with Carter. And I'm not going to go very long on this. My only thing with this whole Zion situation is I kind of feel like it's a little front runner-ish, right? Like, I get that people want to rally, especially in a city, want to rally around Zion, but can we take a step back and just maybe jot down some of the facts that's going on with Zion? Not talking with David Griffin, not talking with Gail Benson, not talking with the organization. And I look, you trade for CJ McCollum and he goes after Zion to tell him to bring his ass back to the city. That's exactly what you needed. What does tick me off to a high level, though, is now the Pelicans are on a 4-game winning streak, and now you want to come back to the city. That bothers the shit out of me. Nobody on planet Earth is saying he's not a good basketball player. Nobody on the planet is saying that he can't do miraculous stuff, but I don't like a front runner. I get you're injured, but talk to him. The Pelicans, I would almost guarantee the Pelicans would have brought any kind of media staff or medical staff and medical team to the city to help Zion. I'm not going to say, I saw Zion maybe 2.5 years ago in person, not on a basketball court. And my man had his dietitian telling him to stop eating Raisin Canes because he's on a diet, and he wouldn't stop. I'm not joking. Like, if he mentally brings himself there and gets better, then I think that the Pelicans will be all right. Ryan says nitpicking. I'm not nitpicking. Him not talking, Ryan, him not talking to the organization's not nitpicky. Sorry. Ed sends us $5 via Super Chat on YouTube. Thank you so much, Ed. I appreciate it. You know what happens when you have kids? My son Ben's bringing me the ice cream. Daddy, ice cream. Okay. Let's finish this out with some LSU basketball and baseball. I want to say this very quickly with LSU basketball because I'm not going to spend long on it either. LSU basketball kind of sits in a really good position to make a little bit of a run in this SEC tournament. Now, they'll play the winners out of Ole Miss and Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. Now, let me go back and because I had it up and then I accidentally exited it out of it. But you have LSU as a 5th seed. They will play the winner of Ole Miss and Missouri, and then they'll play the winner there. They'll play Arkansas. And a game with guys, honestly, you won or lost by a point to Arkansas. I think that you could easily win that game, and then I think you ultimately play Auburn, and then you lose. But look, I think that they could get to the Final Four in this SEC tournament. Like, I really think they could. I don't think Arkansas beats LSU again. Third time around, I don't think that they beat them. But it's hard for me to say that, though, because LSU is so hot and cold on everything. So hot and cold on everything. They're so highly, highly inconsistent. Extremely inconsistent. Like it's at some point, you're going to have to show more consistency. You go up against the number 6 team in the country. You're fighting with them down to the wire. You go up against the number 14 team in the country. You go up against, you're with them right there to the end of the wire. You lose both of those games. Alabama the same. At some point, you got to show some consistency. Blow a team out. Anyway. Blake Doucette says, #Ask Blake, what's your thoughts on Floyd over Hillary to start? Hillary, you mean Hilliard, against the number 1 team in Texas last night. I actually thought, and this is going to be a hot take that people don't like, I actually thought Ty Floyd had a pretty good game. We'll talk some LSU baseball here. I got Mike Scarborough from TigerBait.com calling me. But I thought Ty Floyd, I mean, you can't run out against the number 1 team in the country and throw all fastballs either. Now, I don't know who's calling the pitches. I don't know if he's shaking it off. I mean, I don't know what's going on there. But I didn't mind it. And look, Hilliard's not starting again today. So kind of goes to tell you what they're probably thinking about it. And look, the score from last night's game does not indicate either how close that game was. I know that you lost by 5, but LSU had multiple times with multiple guys in scoring position, and they couldn't capitalize. I gotta say this too. I also feel like Dylan Cruz is oppressing a little bit in crunch time. And bro, you're so good at your craft. You are so good at everything that you do. If I'm anybody surrounded by Dylan Cruz, I'm telling him, hey, bro, just be you. Like, don't overdo it. Like he's trying to hit a 5-run home run, 5-run grand slam. Just be you. Now, I'll tell you who I'm most impressed with this weekend has been Cade Doughty. It's not close. Cade Doughty might be right now the player I'm most impressed with out of the gate of the game, out of the gate of the season. I think you beat Baylor today. I think that you actually crushed Baylor today. I think you hit hit the ball a ton today. With that being said, if LSU wins today, they go 2-1 in the Shriners Classic, and your only loss is to Texas, and your other loss is to Louisiana Tech. You got to get a little better, and I agree with you. You got to, at some point you're going to face a ranked opponent, and you're going to have to beat them. But I think that they will, and you're not going to face a team better than Texas, guys. You're really, really not. Vandy, maybe. Vandy has some really good guys. Arkansas struggling. Shout out Southeastern. They lost. I mean, guys, you have a situation you could do. You can make a good run in the SEC here, but Texas is just really good. Really, really, really good. Rick said last night was very inconsistent with the strike zone for both teams. It was frustrating for Floyd. You could see it. I agree with that. I agree with that. Rick also says we need to play with more discipline and not commit dumb fouls. Talking about basketball. I also agree with that. Rob Boudreaux says we need to quit making first base work so hard. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that. I guess you could say that. I mean, they're just sloppy a little bit baseball wise. Now, I think that look, here's another thing that I got to commend Jay Johnson on, and one of my good buddies. We were talking about this morning. He is not going to sit on his hands if he's going to make a move when it's best for his team. He's not. It's a little bit more of a new school coaching mentality, which I like a lot. I like a whole lot. So, play tonight at 7. I just want to see LSU hit the ball all over the yard. Now, I will end it here. I've been told some things about Alex Milazzo. I think we're going to see a lot of Tyler McManus in the near future. I think if Hayden Travinsky is ready to go, you're going to see a lot of Hayden Travinsky in the near future. I don't know the severity or the lack of severity for Alex Milazzo, but from what I've been told, at extreme minimum, he might be out a week and a half, 2 weeks at extreme minimum. But not being able maybe to get an MRI or whatever his injury may be, maybe some people kicked around that it was his knee. But we'll see. I mean, you don't really know the severity of anything until you get that MRI and you can go in there and see it. With that alone, let's just see how that progresses. But from what I understand, we're going to be seeing a lot of Tyler McManus. And that stinks. That stinks from Milazzo. All right. Got a game in 3 hours. Going to be fun. Pooh said, I'd like to know how many unearned runs we've given up. That's very telling. A lot. And then Blake Doucette talks about leaving 12 runners on base. We'll do it. Yeah, you can't leave 12 guys on and think you're going to beat the number 1 team in the nation. You're not going to do it. But they got him there. And eventually you're going to start getting those guys over. All right, we'll see y'all tonight. I'm sure we'll do a space or something, and we'll be talking about the baseball game. But it's going to be fun. Till then, guys, we'll see y'all again soon. Y'all have a good day. Peace out, Girl Scouts.